Let me see my sound check. Sound looks good. Check on Ranger. Ranger looks good. Alright, give people a few minutes to show up and we'll get going. We're not working too hard today. It's a lab day and day off, right? For most people. So we're not working too hard. I'm just kind of hanging out. Alright. Gonna do some lab stuff today. Let me check if I got some of this stuff set up the way I intended to while I'm waiting for people to kind of show up. Let's go make a new VM real quick. And we will make it with, call it Rel 8. Oh, that's not good. What you guys can't see is my silly little arm that's attached to the, that's not good, decided to slide off. So, alright, give me a second here. That thing from slamming down onto my desk. Basic mechanical leverage here for a second. Alright. Might be better. Give me a second here. That's why I'm not a mechanical engineer. Systems engineer. Alright. Hey Morrison, how's it going? We are just getting organized here, making sure my little camera arm doesn't fall off. Not camera arm, but my stupid microphone. Alright, that should be better, I think. Provided this thing doesn't slide off of here again. We'll see. Feels like it's on there pretty good. Alright. So we're making some, let's call this Rocky test for now. And the ISO we're gonna add, we should have a new Rocky ISO. Yeah, we got a 9.4 box. So we're using a slightly different version of the OS than what we got, but let's see. Drop it here, and we're gonna we'll go ahead and give this thing 4 cores, and we'll give it 8 gigs of RAM to start. We can always up that later. It's easier to up RAM when a system's running later. That's fine. GPU, we don't have any GPUs in those boxes. We're gonna edit this just a little bit, and we'll call this Rocky test disk 1. And we're gonna make that for this. Since this is a little test machine. Well, yeah, this is gonna be fine. We'll go with 50 gigs for now. We can always add more later. That shouldn't be a big deal. We're gonna give it the lab internal network. That's what we want. That's important. And we'll go ahead and start the VM. So yeah, let's see how this build looks. I haven't used the new installer for Rocky. I think it's still just a newer version of Anaconda, but we'll see. The goal of putting Rocky in the environment is that we will then start to build Werewolf on it. So Werewolf is a tool that allows us to just deploy things automated in an automated fashion, define nodes, have things build. And we're just going to kind of see how that looks. Hi, Isobu, how's it going? We're just hanging out today. We're not working too terribly hard. So don't feel like we're going to be doing anything too wild today. We're just kind of hanging out and working in the home lab a little bit. So let's start standing up this box. Go look at the console and see. Here's what the installer looks like. So we'll just say install Rocky Linux 9.4. And this looks like an Anaconda installer. So let's see what this looks like. All the future nodes will get built stateless from this later. Jake Sec, how's it going? Yeah, happy 4th. For any Americans watching, any non-Americans, still happy 4th. It's a kind of important day for us over here in the U.S. All right, so I had a question from Isobu. What is Werewolf? So Werewolf it's a tool. It's been around 20 years. some people aren't super happy with, the people that maintain it, and you can go look into that if you want. Same thing with Rocky Linux, but it's the same company that maintains all Rocky Linux, Apptainer, Werewolf. They're a company called CIQ. So if you go like CIQ Werewolf, and then you go look at any of their white papers here, here's all their products from CIQ. They have Rocky Linux, Apptainer, Fuzzball, Ascender, Werewolf, and CIQ Bridge. Those are kind of their pieces of tooling that they use, and they're getting. I mean, I've seen them popping up more CIQ in the high performance compute space. We've been using some of their tooling on some of the projects I've been building out, so I figured I'd start setting some of it up in the lab to mess with it and just kind of see their methodology. I'm very, very used to a tool called XCAT. XCAT's another way that we would normally kind of maintain big clusters and stuff, especially bare metal stuff. Like bare metal stuff where you have like a lot of servers and a lot of stuff to maintain and manage. That's kind of what Werewolf is dealing with and what it wants to do. And look, it's a cluster management tool for open high-performance compute, powering thousands of clusters worldwide. Some of you that use Raspberry Pis have heard of Beowulf. Beowulf is a smaller version of Werewolf, typically. In fact, I think it's a spin-off of this project. So you can look into that if that's kind of an interesting thing to you. You can go play with that kind of stuff. But that's to answer that question. That's what Werewolf is. Well, so ESXi is fine, but you're playing in VMware space, and companies are moving away from VMware, Morrison. Also, so one of the things about I'm not gonna. Hold on. I'll just pull this up for a second. Let's go down. This is one of my talks that I wanted to have up in case people needed, but I guess I can just draw on this. So give me a second here. If we're talking about virtualization, right? So virtualization is your tools like Zen, ESXi, right? Like these are the things. This is what I was just asked about, and Proxmox. Proxmox is a perfect example. Right. So virtualization, if you have, some physical server here. Your workload, let's say you're using any of these, and you're building workloads, right? Or workflows, or we typically call them workloads. Right? And your workloads can never be bigger. If this is your physical server, your workloads, your servers are always smaller than the box. So like with virtualization, you're always using a subset, right, of a server, right? And this is something I try to explain to people in like our high performance compute talks. But in HPC, our workloads, right? Our workloads, we want to expand these big workloads like this. Like this is the workload here. And these are the physical servers here, right? So the point is you're having multiple physical servers, and you say, well, how do you extend past the physical server plane? Because in virtualization, we can only carve servers down, right? Merry Independence Day. It's happy Independence Day, right? Or happy 4th of July, Doc. Third day troubleshooting Proxmox, total beginner, and hair is graying by the hour. New kernel broke everything. Yeah, Doc, I was watching somebody else work on Proxmox yesterday too, and they were having some problems. But the point is, HPC workloads are bigger. So virtualization workloads are always smaller than a server, than the physical server. HPC workloads are trying to be bigger, and then we're using schedulers to schedulers to schedule workflows across that. And then we've got big storage typically out here that everything writes back to. And the workload is spread against, you know, tens of thousands of processors. Whereas, like, again, in a virtualization workload, you're always smaller than a physical server. So if you've got a server that's like 256 cores, which is not uncommon, 256 cores and maybe 1 terabyte of RAM nowadays, your workloads are always going to be smaller than that. I know that's terrible in virtualization space. In HPC space, I have jobs that run that'll smoke that 100 times over. They're hundreds of times bigger than that, right? So, anyways, that's just to answer that question. People were there was a question about ESXi. ESXi is fine. It's just why are you using the workload for whatever you're doing, right? But that's not exactly what we're doing today. We're kind of just working in the home lab here, kind of working on stuff. Keep an eye on Ranger. So we're looking at Rocky Linux 9.4 English. That's fine. We'll build it for the first time just to see what it kind of looks like. What's going on here, server? Okay. And then this looks very basic. I mean, this is as Anaconda as it gets right here, right? The Anaconda installer. So we've got all the things. Let's set up our root password. Set up a root password for my home lab environment. I don't care if it's not a very good password. We don't allow root to log in SSH via password. You can come in via the console for now, you know, in my environment. We don't need a user creation. We'll just say, I don't know. Typically, I'll do Scott or like lab 1. We'll do Scott for this one. And then the password will be just a little lab password. Right? Something like that. Let's get over here. Let's see what the automatic partitioning looks like. So 50 gigs, if we do automatic, and we allow this thing to do automatic partitioning, let's see what happens. Let's see what automatic partitioning should look like if we go look at this machine. Yeah, here's our full disk summary. So I'm going to hit done. I'm going to let that do what it wants to do for the storage configuration. And then we'll go back and we'll carve it up if we want to. Right? So it's got disk free. We should at least go look at it. And then see if we can see. So this is what it shows. Surprised it's not letting us see. It should be letting us see the configuration. All right. Anyways, let's carve it up ourselves. Hey, Last Chain, how's it going? So you might say, all right, Scott, you've got 50 gigs. How are you gonna carve that up? We're gonna do a custom install. We'll do a custom carving of this disk, right? And let's go ahead and custom, and then we'll say done here, and it should ask us for how we want to carve it up, right? And we can hit right here. I'm just going to hit create them automatically, and let's see what it would do for us. It would give us a slash, which is our root partition. It would give us boot, and it would give us swap. And I might say that's pretty reasonable. But what I might do, and this depends on your posture in your organization, I might pull this up and I might go over to documents and I might type in CIS benchmarks, right? And if we were just trying to check, I'll go to my CIS benchmarks here, and let's go to our old outdated. I think in here I have a rel. Here's a rel 8. So you might say, well, Scott, rel 8's old, you know, and you're using Rocky 9.4, which is, yeah, but here's the thing. Most of the things are pretty similar. So I can at least get in here and figure this out. And you might say, well, why are you looking at this now? Well, watch this. So I've got this inverted, so it's dark. But I can go look at the file systems that are there, this and this. There's a lot here. I'm not going to go through all of the CIS benchmarks, but suffice it to say they're free if you wanted to go download them. But you do have to sign up for their stuff is free, but they take all your information. So here's where it starts to get, as you look at these, right? There's a whole bunch of them here. There's some stuff up here. The 1.1 and then going down further is about disabled file systems. We're not going to be using any of those file systems, so I'm not really too worried about those. But when you get down here to 1.1.2, you start to talk about the file systems that they want configured separate. And when I say they, I mean your security team, your governance, risk, and compliance team, your security posture in the organization. Temp needs to be, if you're going to be CIS benchmark compliant, temp needs to be on its own partition. It can't just be part of root here. So we got to think about, do we want to do that? Wisdom said, hello, what's up? I just graduated from software engineering. Any advice? Wisdom, I would tell you, get a good resume together that's one page. Make sure that you have it tailored to whatever jobs you're going for. I'm not necessarily a software engineer, but I have been dealing with graduates for 16 years. Actually, in December, I'll have been teaching college for 16 years, on top of being an engineer for 20-something years now. So, yeah, I mean, my advice to you, the question was, just graduated, any advice? I have a lot of advice, actually, if you want me to go over that, Wisdom. Actually, that's this whole presentation here, is like, what do you do after college? Like, how do you excel in the engineering field? So I'll go over this if you want. Wisdom and others. If you guys tell me you want to go over this, yeah, we can go about excelling in the engineering field after college. Because I think the model is the same, whether you're a software engineer, a network engineer, an electrical engineer. I think engineering is engineering, and engineering provides the same thing, regardless of who you're working for or what you're doing, right? So we can kind of go over this if you guys want. And look, then I said after college. It was originally after college because I did write this for my college students. But then I changed it and I said for anyone, because I really think engineering doesn't require college, strictly speaking, to get into. So in some ways and shapes it does. But yeah, we can talk about this stuff a little bit if you want. Real quick though, I want to let me finish this thought here on this, and I'll get this building. If I wanted to be CIS benchmark compliant, one of the things I would have to do is carve this system up. And this has been a fight for a while in the industry. You'll as you go and you build things and you're operationalizing servers and stuff, this is the thing that'll happen. You'll be explaining to them, hey, this is a development VM that gets pushed for the team. They store all their stuff remotely in their opt folder that we mount for them, and it's network share. And the box itself is ephemeral. We could just throw the machine away now and give them a new one in a few seconds. Yeah, Cuddlingus, I'll talk about the things that I think are interesting there then. So that'll be what I do, since both YouTube and Twitch asked for it. Cuddlingus and Wisdom asked for it. So down here, though, real quick, what I want to show you guys is your security posture will determine how you need to build your servers. And I would argue to the end of my days, if it's just a virtual machine and all the stuff is being connected and all the users are coming from externally created trust and nothing's being stored on the machine, who cares? This is ephemeral storage. But for your security posture, because, well, okay, part of the reason we used to do this is if somebody filled up temp, they didn't crush the box. If somebody fills up temp over here, there's going to be problems because there's no more space on the devices for logging and all these other things. Now, logging should be going off in real time anyways. However, that doesn't solve the problem that if your system is full, your root is full, you can't start new services on the server, right? So there's all these reasons to have things partitioned off, but they're less prominent if we're dealing with virtual machines. So I used to get exceptions for all these in my environment. But why does temp need to be on its own? Well, again, one thing I said was for the security of everything being in its own containers its own partitions, not containers. Containers are something else now. But it's in its own partitions where we can restore things if something gets corrupt. That's much less common than it was 20 years ago. But the other thing about it, down as we get further in here, is within the temp partition, we can set no dev, right? And users cannot attempt to create block or character devices inside of temp, and also no exec. Here's a no suid, so they are only temporary storage, so they can't create set UID files in there, and also no exec. So what happens is the temp partition becomes a location that only allows writes, but things can't execute out of there, and all these other ones, this and this and this. Had a fun Wednesday. 1 in 10 machines out of 400. Rocky 8 systems in the lab. Had system D login D session stuck. Seems overnight. Rocky updated triggered issues when process can be restarted. Some sort of weird race condition. Yeah, it is weird. Kithro. Do you guys always update on Wednesday night? Is that and that's obviously like a security and an operations decision too, like when updates happen. Hopefully updates don't run all the time. Maybe that was just like a once a week thing or once a month thing. But yeah, that sucks, especially if you're working on the 4th of July trying to recover that. But yeah, session D or for system D, login D, sometimes you got to restart dbus, sometimes you got to restart the login D service. But on the plus side, it doesn't kill any SSH sessions that are open typically. I know that because I tend to run inside of high performance compute clusters. I tend to only have a few ways in, and then everything else is just within basically those bastions. So those are the outside, like I have login servers typically in my environment. So I get servers that are very, very full of users, but then the users are going off and doing stuff. Yeah, last chain, we were talking about this. Yeah, if you put a no exec on temp and then you try to install Oracle must, its installers must build things out of temp and execute them out of there. There's no way around it. If you go muck around in their script, you're going to void all kinds of stuff. So you just have to turn this one off. I used to have to do this. Because what you do is you just reset it and then mount-o remount, and it'll, mount-o remount on the temp, and it'll remount with no exec not being set, and then you go put it back in after. But that's the reason I'm bringing all this up is it's security posture, and it's things that are it's very difficult to change this later, guys. So you want to get this right at the beginning. If I do this here, and as I let this build, this is going to be doing logical volume management. So LVM is going to be in play, meaning that it's going to be very easy to expand these later if I need to. Well, only logical volume management here. There won't be logical volume management on boot. /boot needs to be a standard partition. It's going to be XFS. That's fine with me. Swap isn't going to have any of that, but it'll still be LVM as its type. So that's fine. I think this is a perfectly fine partitioning for what I'm going to use this for. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit done. The reason I brought up the CIS benchmarks is just to know that you don't just build a box willy-nilly. You have to think about it for a while, right? You have to spend some time. Cuttalingus, I'm on the Rel 8 benchmark, but I'm building a Rocky 9 box. And the point I was making too is that there's very similar things between the different versions. So like 8 to 9, you're going to have some differences, but it's not that big a deal. And I want to show real quick, we're going to hit accept here, and then we're going to get a big red flag in our face. Watch. We're going to come back here. I didn't do it. It normally does it, or that was our big flag. They're always like, there's always a thing that's like, oh, are you sure you want to change these disks? And you're like, yes, the raw 50 gig disk that had never existed before I started this virtual machine, and now I'm partitioning it. Yes, I understand that it's going to blow away all of the nothing that was not there, right? But the point is, the warning's always there, because if you were installing this on a different box, it would be there. All right, so we have this. I can set a security profile. So I may come in here and go to my SCAP guide, and if I had any, I can fetch the SCAP settings that I want to set this to. So I may go, I want this to be set at a CIS Rel 9 benchmark for level 1 workstation, or for level 2 workstation. That's going to set some different things. What I really care about in this environment is not really any of those things. But let's go protection profile for general purpose operating systems. So we'll select it, and it'll tell us what changes need to be there. Do we need to have SE Linux installed? We need OpenSSH. We need tmux. We need sudo. Sudo is a package that might not be there. Subscription manager, firewall D, SCAP security guide, OpenSSH client. So all these things have to be installed. If they weren't, audit needs to be there. And because if you don't have audit, you can't run and set up audit D. KDump needs to be set up to be able to kernel dump the system if there's issues, or all that kind of stuff. So anyways, we do all that. We hit done, and we'll allow this thing to begin the installation over here while we go talk about the stuff that you guys wanted to talk about, which was software engineering advice. That wasn't what I was going to talk about today, but I'll talk about it a little bit. All right, we'll let this build over here. This is just our little Rocky test. Oh, one other thing. We can set up our network and host name. This device here is going to have a hardware address. We can allow it to connect, but it's going to be this one here. This device is getting connected to the lab internal network. The lab internal network goes to my 192.168.200 network, which is not my home internal network. My home internal network is 192.168.11, right? Well, the problem then is this isn't going to get DHCP, and that's fine. That's not that big of a problem. It's just a problem that I need to understand is when the box comes up, I'm going to have to set an IP address on it. I could set it now, I guess. IPv4 settings. DHCP isn't going to work, so I can just make it static. Manual static, same thing. And in this case, I can just be 192.168.200. And then if I know the network that I'm in, and I know what's free, this box can be, let's just call this box, I'll call him, we'll call him the 25 server. That's fine. His net mask is /24, or I can use, I think I could also put in my 255.0, which is also a /24. And then the gateway for this guy is 192.168.11, and I forget his IP address, so I'm actually going to go look here on my router. My router is the device that people come in and out of, so IP adder. His internal network is the .1, so he's the one that actually functions as a IPv4 bridge in my network. So here, it will be .1. Yep, there we go. Boom. And then DNS servers are 192.168.11.1 and 8.8.8.8, which are kind of the common ones. Kithral, I have not had any issues with Rocky 8. I haven't run Rocky 8 professionally. I've run Rocky 9.3 professionally now, and I've run a whole slew of Red Hat professionally over the years. This isn't really part of the carving. This is just part of the system coming up. By the way, I want to make sure it's a /24, which is 255.255.255.0. That's perfect. Well, that thing's terrible at IP addresses. It's 255.255.0. Whatever. All right, we'll let that be done. All right, let's see if this thing can install, and then we'll come back to it. This configuration. Oh. We might have to go to the installation and do some software selection. And in this case, I don't need a server with a GUI. I can do a server. And then for me, I tend to like file and storage, because this, can be doing file and storage stuff. I do not need InfiniBand support, mail. I do like performance tools. I don't need remote management, because I can do all my remote management over OpenSSH. And then I don't need any of these pieces. It's not going to be its own hypervisor. It's not going to be a Windows file server, none of that stuff. Security tools and system tools are fine. We're not going to be doing RPM development on here, although that might be a good lab in the future. We are going to do container management on this box, because this box is going to run Werewolf, but it would install its own tools anyways, so that's probably fine. That's a good enough selection there. Once I spend, and typically I'll spend some time as I build these. Once I do that once, this becomes a template, and I never do that again. So I need to emphasize for you guys that are watching me kind of build this, I don't do this professionally, right? Once I have a system built the way that I want it to, typically through like a Kickstart file, then I'm going to just keep automating it, through that every time. But all right. So anyway, let's see if we can get this to at least start. We can do dsystigs. Let's see what this thing says. Yeah, it's giving me those errors here. All right, that's fine. We won't apply a security policy. We'll do that we'll do ourselves later because we have all kinds of playbooks and Ansible stuff for that later. So we'll start that install and we'll let that run in the background. And then we'll come down here. This is excelling in the engineering field for anyone, right? Originally it was for my college students after college, and then I changed it to, for anyone. And the idea here is, here's my random quote to get you interested. Like, you're never going to stop learning. So don't think that you like finally. I remember this was how I was when I got out of high school. I thought, oh man, if I could just go to college, I'll never have to learn anything ever again. Finish college up and then you'll be done. Well, I went in the Army first, so that didn't even count. But, and then I decided to go back to college after. But the point is, you're never done learning. And in the IT field, it's always going to be, in the IT field, you're always going to be sitting there learning stuff. Thiago said, do any of you know how security profiles are implemented in the installer? Does it just tool like OpenSCAP, or are they shell scripts? So OpenSCAP actually can generate shell scripts and Ansible scripts. In that case, I think they're probably shell scripts if they're down inside of Anaconda. I actually have a lab that I need to put together. It's in my notes to put together on showing people how to do OpenSCAP, because I've been doing a lot of OpenSCAP scanning and remediation on STIG compliant servers. Professionally, I've been using that for work this last couple weeks. So this is a thing that's important. But on this, you're always gonna be learning, right? So don't think you're ever gonna get away with. Yeah, ISOBU. That's what I was saying. Yeah, I definitely use like an installer, and then I just copy from templates after. Yeah, and I think last chain, you're right. Engineering is a mindset and a commitment to lifelong learning. Yes. So let's talk about. Here's my quote to hopefully get people to the point. This is what do we do as engineers? We're engineers, right? And what does the company keep us around for? It's not for our looks. It's not for our ability to talk. It's not for sales, right? What do engineers bring to the table? We deal in truth. If anybody ever tells you, like, hey, there's no such thing as truth, or truth is ephemeral, or truth is a sliding, whatever, I'll tell you what, not in engineering. In engineering, there is a yes and a no, a true and a false, an up and a down, a bit set or not set. There is a, like the truth of a bit being there or not being there are things that we can test. We have truthiness tests, right? And truth tables that we build and all these things, right? Wadia Soft, you said you installed Proxmox an hour ago. Should you have installed XCPNG? I don't think so. I just use XCP in the home lab, and I don't think you have to use it. A lot of people are pretty happy with Proxmox. Proxmox is going to have, there's providers for Terraform if you're using Terraform. My XCPNG can do some Ansible stuff, but other than that, I don't have a lot of control. Nikhil said they're loving my Linux lab from killercoda. How do I document my notes? I use Notepad++ when I do engineering notes, and I just indent things as I go. This is like my notes on labs that I have to put together still. So this is something I was thinking of working on today a little. But I tend to just I build raw notes as I go on any project I'm doing, and as I go I just set things up, and then I build finished notes later. Wadia Soft for a home lab, that's perfectly fine. Proxmox is what a lot of the guys are running. I kind of think of XCPNG as like a... I don't know. I kind of think of it as like a... Not as fully... I don't know. They're not working on it as much. Maybe there's people out there working on it, but they're definitely not working on the Ansible part of it and the Ansible integrations much. So, something to think about. All right. But yeah, I just use... Notepad++, and I just build like raw notes. I mean, if you look across this page, I just have notes everywhere. But once I get something done, so let's say whatever new 36 is. So this was we were doing checkmark in my home lab, right? I would start just putting stuff in here, and then as I was ready to codify it down into a something that I was going to present to somebody, or something that I was going to go and make professional. So in this case, I was looking at a bunch of failed runs with my Ansible playbook, and I was holding... These are the notes on my failures. What did my failures look like? What was I not able to do? Was I not able to find the host template, or was my build not working? Whatever. So these were a bunch of failed notes. I could just throw these away because whatever these were, I fixed, so I don't need them anymore, right? My notes are very ephemeral. Like, I don't care. Like, this was notes from one of my friends doing his, he had one of his doctoral dissertation papers, so there were some notes that I had put together for, like, grammar and stuff on his dissertation, because I sometimes help people with editing and checking their stuff, right? That's a thing I do on top of my other activities, since at heart, I'm an academic, and when I say that, I don't just mean like somebody who reads newspapers. I'm, doing college stuff, and I'm working on my dissertation for my doctorate and all that stuff too. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're engineers, guys. We deal in truth. Hey, Sony Chiba, how's it going? I haven't seen you stream in a while, man. I've just been hanging out, but this is, we're going over some engineering notes. We're not working too hard today, right? This is just kind of chilling. But yeah, Sony Chiba, hopefully everything's going well. I was thinking of going over and wrestling today at the M1 Academy, but I think they're open mats right now, or maybe it's noon. I don't know. So I'm working a lot, just hanging out. Missed you. Yeah. We got to get together. We'll get together maybe early August or something as the heat starts going down in Phoenix again, hopefully. I don't know if any of you guys know, Phoenix has been set on bake the last few months. Well, in August it'll still be set on bake, actually. So it'll be pretty wild. So, yeah, last chain. I got a little while on the dissertation before the doctorate goes through. I'm probably about 2 years out on completing that. I still got coursework that I'm doing. I'm not. If any of you know, when you're working on your doctorate, they do a thing called you're in a state at the end of all your coursework called ABD, all but dissertation. And some of my friends are sitting in fact, that friend Benjamin I was just showing, he's sitting in all but dissertation right now. I will be there. I'm about a year and a half out from all but dissertation, which is called ABD. It's often called that. Can't wait to call me doctor. Yeah. And actually, me and Ben both say the whole reason to get the doctorate is to be able to immediately, when somebody says, "Is there a doctor?" you can immediately make the situation worse. That's the goal, right? Somebody's like, "Is there a doctor?" And I'm like, "I'm a doctor." And they'll be like, "Can you help him out?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a doctorate of business administration. It doesn't look like he's handling his business too well right now." That's a terrible joke. All right. So anyways, down here, we're engineers, right? We deal in truth. Our utility, or what in marketing they call the value added of something, to a company is directly related to what we know and how quickly we can get to the correct answer. That's what companies pay us for. They pay us specifically for two things. Sometimes we're called on to answer the best technology for some random problem. We need to be able to deploy and build things, right? We're builders as engineers. Sometimes we're called on to fix a problem and troubleshoot why something is not working. We're knowers of things. We know that a system does 8 things, and if it breaks on the 4th step, we know what to go look at, right? But in any case, knowledge and finding solutions are what we bring to the table. So knowledge are things we know, and finding solutions are our ability to go read and look stuff up and troubleshoot and rapidly, fix things, right? That's what we bring to the table. So if we know that that's what engineers do, then our goal, and our goal if we want to be good engineers, is to understand our value add and then understand how to keep ourselves ready to do that. This is like as simple as I can put it. The main crux of the problem is a company will pay you a lot of money to be an engineer, but you need to know things. How do we know things? Right? How do we go about knowing those things? And this is kind of my thoughts on it. Here's my overview. Continuing education. So assuming you have gotten into the industry, or maybe you haven't yet, and you're done with college, one important thing up here to point out is nobody's gonna help you anymore, man. Once you're done paying for college, nobody's gonna help you anymore, right? Oh, by the way, Sarah BH over on YouTube, I don't have the command set up on YouTube. I don't even know how to do that. But on the Twitch side, I have a book command. Where's that? Here's the book command. Actually, I finished the 7th gate, but I'll link the book over for people on the YouTube side. There's the book if anybody wants it. You guys don't need it, right? You don't need the book to kick it. It's just somebody pushed the book thing over on the YouTube side. So here's some things I've added recently. I think you should learn how you learn. There's different ways that people pick things up. There's different ways that you learn things. And I think that you should understand how you learn things if you're going to be getting into this space. I think that there's value in certifications. You don't have to get certifications, but there's value in understanding what we call the body of knowledge around a certification, the BOC, right? BOK. I think that you can build home labs and do professional projects and personal projects, and you can document those things and show it to other people, and then they could be like, oh, yeah, this person does know how to do this thing or whatever. There's a book collection. I think you should have a book collection because there's a certain amount of rigor around writing a book that is better than just being some, you know, I agree with probably every one of you guys. Stack Overflow is pretty much, hey, how's it going, Rob? Raiding with a party of 36. We're just getting into a presentation that I give. The guys were asking earlier, there was a ask on both the Twitch and the YouTube side for, like, how do we, you know, we just finished college, what do we do? And this is a talk that I gave to my college students around excelling in the engineering field after college. And then I changed it over time to for anyone. Anybody can use this, right? And this is, again, some interesting quote, you know, education, you're always going to be educating yourself. You're always going to be learning, whether you're sitting in a classroom or you're sitting in front of a classroom, you got to be learning. And then we talked about what engineers do, what we solve and how we solve things in the organization. And then if we understand that this is what we do and this is who we do it for in the context of it, this is what we need to do to stay ready moving forward. So, yeah, Rob, hopefully everything's going good. Let me give you a shout out here. If you guys don't follow Rob, Rob's been kind of traveling around lately, but he's one of our kind of tech gurus on the Twitch side of things. So you guys should definitely follow him if you don't. In fact, I think a lot of people that hang out with me also hang out with Rob. You know, I see a lot of the same names when I'm over there kind of lurking and stuff. So Rob's an excellent resource on why systems work the way they do and how you learn, which is, by the way, a big part of this. So I was talking about you should learn how you learn where you should apply. I mean, this is one of these things, if you ever see the Count of Monte Cristo, I use a lot of movie quotes to hammer things home. So I feel like there should be a required movie watching list to even maybe hang out with me sometimes. But one of the things is right near the end, Edmond Dantes he's assumed the mantle of the Count of Monte Cristo, and he has thwarted his old nemesis, the Count Mondego, at every step. And just kind of pushed him into a corner and taken Mercedes back and all these things, right? I'm not gonna ruin a story that's 200 years old for you, I hope. But the point is, there's a scene where the guy, the Count Mondego has a pistol. It's a single shot pistol, and he's pointing it at Edmond Dantes. And Edmond Dantes says, "You better make it count because that one shot's not going to be enough to stop me." And he says, "Well, then I shall have to put it where it'll do the most damage," and he turns to shoot Mercedes, and that's where, you know, it's a pretty awesome scene, both in the book and in the movies, right? But my point is, learning how you learn will save you from fumbling around, right? And I tell you guys often, like, there's a lot of stuff on Twitch and YouTube that's there for entertainment, right? Like, I think all of us are guilty of watching shorts, you know, like some of those shorts are the stupidest shit on the planet. They don't help you any. But if you're trying to, like, maybe get somewhere, you might have to, like, stop watching hours and hours of shorts and learn how you learn and start working on putting other stuff in your head. So anyways, we'll talk about that. Certification, again, body of knowledge around things is useful. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it's another tool to get you there. Home labs, maybe doing professional and personal projects, documenting those. Book collection, that's where we were at when the raid came in, so we kind of backed up. Oh, I thought Rob was already on his cross-country trip. There was a stream a few weeks back. I thought he was in California. I have seen him, like, putting the Starlink and stuff up, so that's kind of cool. All right, and then this is maybe the most effective and useful one that most people can do is, like, get into discussion groups, hang out with the other engineers, see what people are talking about, see how these people interact and talk, right? Podcasts, blogs, open source community. There's so much stuff you can get involved with for free. There's Slack or Discord servers on all kinds of topics of technology. And again, I tell you guys all the time with this, if it's not me, if you're like, I couldn't listen to this guy for another second, that's fine. Go find somebody. There's all kinds of people out there that are trying to show you this stuff and kind of show you what's going on. And then if you find yourself standing on top of the pile of all the engineers with no mentor around you, it's time for you to start mentoring other people. Because some of the most important things I learned, because I've been grappling for 20 something years now, right, as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and one of the things that's probably been the most useful to me for learning, especially like on the wrestling side of things, is to go help others. And I learned how I did things better. So I'm going to talk about all these things. All right, anyways. So learning how you learn. Sure, everyone learns differently, right? There's ways to do it more effectively than others. You need to figure out a schedule, right? What's something that works for you? Some of you, I mean, if you're hanging out here, you probably like hanging out on Twitch, and I'm one of those guys. I like hanging out on Twitch. I like watching Dead by Daylight. I don't know why. I've never played a single second of that game, but I think it's hilarious to watch those guys get hung up on meat hooks. I don't know why. I think it's maybe from my infantry time. Maybe it's my upbringing. I don't know. Maybe it's the war. Who knows? But I know that that's something that I like to spend my time in. Anyways, you need to find out what schedule works for you. Do you need a Pomodoro timer to keep you on task? Pomodoro timers are like 40-20 splits or 45-15 or maybe even 50-10. People use different splits on them. But it's a timer that just says, okay, we're going to be focused, we're going to take a break. We're going to be focused, we're going to take a break. And it helps keep people that like to go squirreling off after a billion different things on task. Can you watch a video for hours? Can you sit and watch YouTube, right? Some people can do that. People tell me all the time they want to learn cloud stuff and they want to go take, cloud certifications. And I'm like, that's awesome. Did you know there's like 100, probably over 1,000 hours. I was going to say hundreds. There are probably over 1,000 hours of relevant talks from AWS reInvent events. So you can go watch AWS reInvent. That's what it is, reInvent event talks. You can watch them at like 1.5 or 2 speed, and you can just blow through those if you're somebody who can sit and watch videos, right? Not everybody can do that. This is a thing that's important to note. You do not find time, you make time. So if you're like, oh man, I wish I could be like my buddy that wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes to the gym. He doesn't want to wake up at 5 a.m. either. He does it though, right? And it's the same thing here. If you tell me, Scott, I want to be a great engineer, I want to be a great writer, I want to be a great whatever, I'm like, well, are you getting up every morning and doing it before you have to do other things? And if not, then you have to start doing that, right? And you might say, well, these other guys don't do it. Well, not everybody has to do that, right? Then this is a big one. A little daily is better than cramming once a week. So, hey, there's Robodom. How's it going, man? Happy 4th of July. Agreed.
Happy 4th
we
of
are
July.
hanging out and talking through. I got asked a little bit about any advice I have after college, and this is kind of the best advice I can give you is go spend time in these systems, right? Learn how you learn. Figure out what you're interested in. Take a self-assessment on what you're interested in. We've got one free in Discord, but it's like, why spend a lot of time getting good at databases? Maybe you're bad at databases, so you spend a bunch of time getting good at it, but you find out that you're not really interested in doing database work. And you're like, oh man, I'm just going to actually literally get up every day and hate what I do. Go find something else. Maybe you like working in HTML. Some people like doing that stuff. Some people are really good at that. And that's what you got to do is find what you're interested in and go work on that, because then it's still work. Don't get me wrong, guys. It's never going to stop being work. It's just maybe a little better. I don't know. Robodom, I wasn't going to stream. The wife had, she went and did her friend's hair. So we kind of laid around this morning, had some breakfast, and then she took off for a couple hours to do her friend's hair. And then she's going to come back, because my wife does her friend's hair. She's been doing hair for 30 years. Actually, tomorrow it will be 30 years since they graduated their beauty school. And you say, really? How do you know that? Well, because she kept track of it. Her and her beauty school friends are still friends 30 years later. So that's kind of funny. Anyway, so she's out for a little bit. So I got a couple hours of stream, and then I'm going to come back. And then this is another thing. Work on projects that allow you to do what you're interested in. More on this later. We're going to get into this in a little bit. Last Chain, you like CSS? You know what's funny, Last Chain? I'm both colorblind and just terrible at layouts of things. So while I'm very good at, I think I'm very good, and I think my engineering career has shown I'm very good at outlining things, I am not good at laying them out on a page. So I am just, everything's against me as far as web page stuff. So I don't build web pages as far as that goes. All right, so learning how you learn, right? Here's the thing that's called Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is used in higher level education. Some of this is important to know, but it starts down at layer or at 1 and it goes all the way up to 6. And we all start at level 1 in any field. Some people progress naturally, some have to work at it, but knowing these will help you focus on your style of learning. Sometimes you guys will hear me say something like the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. That's the lowest level of AWS certification, right? You will hear me call that a glossary test. Does everybody here know what a glossary is? So a glossary might be like A is for access control lists, and then the next A is I don't know, admin access, and the next one is admin credentials, and it just keeps going down in alphabetical order of every single definition. Yeah, it's basically like a dictionary, Rob Dom. It's all the words. So if you guys hear me, yeah, that's exactly right, Wadiasoft. It's like a dictionary. So if you hear me say something as a glossary test, then what I'm saying is that certification, the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner test, I have a little study guide for it for people because I've helped people get that cert over the years. It is a 1 and 2 level thing. You need to be able to regurgitate facts back up like a little mama bird back to the people. And if you know what that is, then it's gross, right? But that's how big birds feed their little baby birds, right? But the point is that you're not doing anything super advanced. You're literally just learning a bunch of facts and being able to spit them out on paper. What is the advantage of, so like an idea of concept here? They might ask you, what is it called when you move to the cloud because you don't want to spend a bunch of money up front anymore? And you say, well, that's actually the concept of operationalizing costs as opposed to capital expenditures. So it's operational costs. And then you go look and it says like operational cost or operational model. And boom, there you go. Boom, that's the right answer in whatever a thing is. Because the idea or the concept you knew was that capital expenditures, we spend a bunch of money up front, set it up in the server rack, wait weeks for the equipment to get there, rack it, stack it, power, space, cooling, all that stuff. But in an operational model, I just turn all the servers on and start spending, $500 a month. And then as the service gets more and more popular, I spend more and more, but there was no upfront outlay and cost. And that's a huge selling point for the cloud, right? But that's just down here. And we keep moving up and up and up. And typically like this first 2 layers, or if any of you did your bachelor's degree, again, this was originally for like college students. So down here is like your bachelor's degree. The college professors literally just want you to regurgitate stuff to them and tell them in APA or MLA format how you found it and who said it. Who is the expert that you're quoting, right? Up here is more of like your, sometimes bachelor's level goes up here, but this is more of like your master's level all the way up through like 3 and 5. You're reading stuff, you're taking stands and positions, and you're figuring out, and you're writing case study analysis and all these things about things. You're looking at how things work and how they didn't work, and you're justifying and all this stuff, right? This is master's level work. And then doctorate level work is like your evaluation and your creation of new things, where now you're saying things and you're taking an assertive stance and you're proving hypotheses and those kind of things. And then people are quoting you down here as they come into the industry and that kind of stuff. So anyways, this is learning how you learn. This is a model for human learning, Bloom's taxonomy, right? This is a good thing. So let's say you go, well, Scott, I'm not going to go to college. And I say, that's fine. But if you tell me, Scott, I want to get into cybersecurity, and I say, okay, well, explain to me the CIA triad. And you're like, well, that's confidentiality, integrity, and apples. And I go, this is not looking good, right? This isn't looking good so far. And then, but the point is, you go and you just start to find things out. So this goes back for a second real quick here. Let's pull this up. Delicious apples, yeah. Let's pull this up real quick, and let's go find the sunflower doc. Have you guys all seen the sunflower doc? I pull this up for you guys every now and then. You know what? I got this in dark mode, so this might not look very well or look very good anymore. Hold on. Let's see if this comes up right. It's not as good. Hold on. Let me open it the other way. Hold on. Let's open it inside of. We'll do it in Edge. We can do it in Chrome. Doesn't really matter. Chrome's just always over here eating memory, right? Chrome is just munching on memory every chance it gets. All right, so let's pull this up. Have you guys all seen the CIS SP sunflower doc? Let me pull this up real quick. This is free. It's online. says the only thing you need to do is make sure you give credit to the original author, Martin de Frankenreicher, CISSP. This is one of the most useful things I ever used when I studied for mine back in, when did I pass mine? 2017, 2018? I forget. I've had a CISSP for a while. But if you say, Scott, I'm not going to get the CISSP, I say, that's fine, don't. But if you want to get into cybersecurity, can you at least explain to me some of these topics here? Can you at least walk through, like what part of cybersecurity do you want to get into, right? And you're like, well, I don't even know. And I'm like, well, then I posit, starting out, you can come in here and you can read a tremendous amount about security and risk management. And you're like, I don't want to be in security and risk management. And I go, okay. Do you want to do it as like asset security? Do you want to like protect buildings and do cybersecurity where like we look at the ways that we keep data exfiltration from happening inside of an organization? Is that the interesting thing to you? Because here's asset security. But whatever you did, and by the way, guys, this is this, you can go find the Sunflower doc. If you type in Sunflower CISSP anywhere, you will find this doc. It's an excellent study guide. When I was getting ready for my CISSP, I had this up often. But you come in here, oh, actually, I actually need some of this for something I'm writing up right here, right? Yeah, OTSec is prominent. Yeah, people are big in, everybody wants to get an IT sec, but it's like, how much time did you spend learning any of this stuff? Again, even if you're just talking about down here, understanding and remembering the concepts, right? By the way, these haven't a lot of these have not changed in many years, right? But then you come down here, and I tell you guys this, when I was taking like my practice tests and getting ready for it and stuff, there was no time in Domain 4 that I scored under like a 97%. And you said, oh God, Scott's being a Chad. No, like this is my domain right here. This is like, I've been teaching this at the college level for, when I took that, it would have been like 12 years, right? Like, back then it was probably like 10 years at the time. But the point is, like, this is my baby. The OSI model, how this all works, all this stuff. But if you're not strong in this, or you need to know these things, here's a tremendously useful reference. But, then I was going to get down to identity and access management. Maybe you're like, Scott, you know what? I want to get in. I want to do user space stuff. Here's all your user space stuff. How does Kerberos work? It's actually funny. I studied so heavily for Kerberos because I thought it would be all over. I didn't have a single question on Kerberos. I was so ready I could draw Kerberos out in my sleep right now, even years later, right? I know Kerberos like the back of my hand. But what I did have like 10 questions on when I took the test years ago was on cross-site scripting. I had a lot of cross-site scripting questions, and didn't stumble me or anything. It was just something to think about. Security assessment and testing. So maybe you're a software guy, and you're like, Scott, I'm not going to go get a CISSP, and I say that's fine. But do you know about how security assessment and testing is done in the industry? Do you want to simplify your interactions with the security team and make your life easier, even though you're a software engineer? Well, then go learn how to talk to these people. This is what they do. This is how they do code review. Code review report, black box, dynamic, white box, static. What is a static application security test versus a dynamic application security test? You need to know these things, right? If you're going to be in the thing. What does it mean to have a CSV? CSV is just a comma separated value. That's what we feed management, right? Out of our systems, we feed them CSVs. But CVEs are common vulnerabilities and exposures, or sometimes people say exploits. And it's maintained by MITRE, but there's also one maintained by NIST, right? And then the CVSS Common Vulnerability Scoring System tells you how vulnerable something is. There's a National Vulnerability Database that is maintained by NIST, right? And you can go look those up at any time. You can parse those down with API calls if you want. You can do 10 calls a minute without an API key. If you get an API key, I think you can do 30 calls a minute. If you're interested in that far in, you can do that, right? Yeah, instead of horsing around, be productive. Yeah, actually, I'm a big fan. Look, there's a time where we got to sit around and be knowers of things and learn things. Look, security operations is how things run, right? My point in all this is you got to learn how you learn, because all of us learn differently. NIST 800, yeah, all the 800s, right? There's a lot of them up there, but I think NIST 800 is the base cybersecurity one, right? So learning how you learn, right? Boom. And then this is another one. This is so this first one is like ideas and how you fit things into your head, right? Like a lot of times you want to spend, you need to know how the industry talks about things, and it's the same thing in debate. People talk about, well, if we're going to debate, we need to spend the first couple hours defining terms, because if we can't agree on terms, how are we going to convey all the other stuff and actually convince anything? Yeah, risk management's huge. Yeah, I have a whole talk on risk management if people want that. But for now, let's talk about how you learn. This is like the conscious competence model is how you perform actual tasks. So this is more about how you actually use your tools. How well do you actually open up, how well do you open this up here and go to, where am I at here? Hold on. Come on, server. Server's embarrassing me in front of my friends again. This is just like my hello stream thing. We were doing some Prometheus stuff here, right? And like how well do you operate in a shell, right? How well do you perform? Because I tell you guys all the time, you can't be learning how to maneuver a shell when stuff is happening, when an event is happening, and like there has become, something has happened in the environment, and there is a, you're responsible for maybe stopping the event from happening or the security incident or whatever. You can't be down here figuring out how to use your tool. You need to know how to use your tool. So anyways, this is called how well you understand the hands-on of something. This is not necessarily the knowledge portion of it. But you all start over here. Everybody starts over here. You don't know what you don't know. You walk into, an engineering class for the first time, and you don't know what you don't know. But then, as you start to find stuff out, you don't know, but you know that you don't know, and you want to learn. So you walk in there, and you're like, I don't even know what this engineering class is. And then you start to find out there's all these facets of engineering and all these different pieces. Just like maybe when we started here, you had never seen anything around cybersecurity. You wanted to learn how to get into cybersecurity, but you had never even heard about it or whatever. You didn't really. But now, after we just looked at the Sunflower doc, you go, oh, shoot. I got a lot of stuff I don't know. I got a lot of stuff I don't even know how to talk about, and I don't even know what the labeling of those things are to even sit in a room with people that are talking about it, right? So I know that I need to learn these things before I can go and apply whatever. Blissful ignorance. Yeah, better yet, Shark. I'd be okay with calling unconscious incompetence blissful ignorance. That's fair. But then you start to learn that you don't know these things. Then you come over here and you start to develop a proficiency, but you have to actively think to apply or maintain it. So you're over here and you're like, PWD, LS, CD. Oh no, that took me back here. Now I want to go back, and I have to like think about the things that I'm doing. That's a conscious competence. And this, I argue, this is where we want to stay. As engineers, we want to stay here. What happens is you move down this, and then what happens is you start to slide off down into here, and you're unconsciously competent about things. And you say, well, Scott, why wouldn't I want to be unconsciously competent where I can just come into work every day? I can just come into work a day, and I'm proficient at it, and I don't even need to think about it. And I go, well, that sounds really good. But then you find out about engineers who did that for 15 years, and the technology changes. And now they've invested all this time in Ruby on Rails, and literally nobody uses it anymore. Well, most people that are good, Isobu, go down into unconscious competence. Most people that are good. But I would argue you want to stay up here. You want to break this. You don't want to go down here as an engineer. You want to stay up here. So the big crux of everything I'm showing you is you want to stay learning. You want to constantly be, this is where they talk about like challenge yourself and grow and all these other things. You don't want to be down here. Yes, I did build this. That's why the graph is not perfect, but I did build this myself. But this is the conscious unconscious axis, and then the competence axis here. So you can see that. You want to stay in the top right. Well, however it's drawn, you want to stay conscious. All right. So, knowing that, there are certifications that are out there. There are certifications that are valuable. There's the ISC squared. This ISC squared one is, these ones cost money. CISSP, CCSP, I have both of those. There's a certified in cybersecurity one, and there's Prolog training. I have training on that that I'm putting together still up here. Like I have all the domains put together, and I just need to add to it, and I'll probably be doing that here in the next. I had planned on doing it maybe this weekend, but I want you guys to know, like, hey, you can get in there. And the Certified in Cybersecurity, I didn't realize there's 500,000. Well, there's 1 million free certifications still being offered. I don't know how much have been used of it. It's only been around for about a year, but you can go take the certification for free. So that's down in our Discord, by the way. There's a whole bunch of certs in our Discord. If you go looking at our Discord here, you go dropping down to our beginner start here. Here's all free certifications that are out there where both the training and the cert itself is free. Yeah, Robodom free. Yeah, the first 1 million are free. Now, I gotta put, there's a little asterisk here. 500,000 of those are for anybody, and 500,000 of those are part of their DEI initiative. So, you know, if that is something that benefits you, then put in for it. You know, if it's not something that benefits you, then put in for one of the first 5,000. I don't know how 500,000. I don't know how far along they are. I just know it's not been out there that long. Isobu, I don't think you have to be going into cybersecurity to want one of these certs. No. Here's the thing, right? I tell you guys this all the time, and it's 100% true. If you're not on the red team, if you don't go hang out directly in the red team for your organization, if you're not like sitting down and doing, you know, hacking your organization and all that stuff, then you are playing blue. And what does that mean? That means you're playing defense. Literally every single one of us that logs into a terminal anywhere is playing defense for our company. And if you don't think of it like that, I think that it's bad, man. I think you have to like look at this. I'm root in an organization. I am always an administrator. My credentials are literally the most important thing that I carry with me every day. If I ever compromise root as the root user, my company goes on the news. My company goes. Bogan Bits, are you talking? It's hard. It's not hard to be that, or only if there's a connection on the internet somewhere. I would argue even if there's not a connection on the internet. What if somebody's just, because I work in skiffs and things that are off the network all the time. What if somebody just comes in and resets things because they don't know what they're doing? That's a security. Any outage, any availability hit is still downtime. It's still a security incident, even if somebody did it on accident. Even if somebody trips over a cable, that's a security incident. But anyway, so the point is you're either playing defense or you're playing offense, and only a small part of a percentage ever plays offense. So the rest of us should be thinking security all the time. You're blue. I'm just telling you, you're responsible for the security of your organization. If you build things, 100%. If you secure things and operate things, 100%. You know, it's very important. It's even if, again, you're not sitting in cybersecurity meetings, but decisions you make daily as an engineer, if you're doing real engineering, literally everything you do affects the cybersecurity posture of the company. If I choose not to patch this month, I'm just like, we're not going to patch our servers. That affects my company, right? If I'm just like, I'll just leave this port open. I don't care. I'll let somebody check that this weekend. Nope. You might get compromised, right? What if that guy who had found the that XZ exploit, what if he had just been like, 500 milliseconds isn't that big of a deal? You guys know he found that because his SSH was 500 milliseconds slower across the network. And he started digging in and he's like, what the heck? This is half a second slower than normal. And then he found out that there's that. All right. There's CompTIA. People love CompTIA. It's very vanilla. Net Plus, Sec Plus, Cloud Plus, Data Plus. Sec Plus falls into the DoD regulations for basic, what they call like their SSC operators or whatever that thing is called. You need to know that. There's Linux Foundation. They're very hands-on. CKA, CKAD, CKS. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm working on my Prometheus cert. I'm probably going to take it at the end of July because I've been super busy with work stuff. There's a bunch of cloud certs out there. AWS and Azure. They both have free training. And then the cert itself costs about $100 for each of them. But here's the thing. You can almost always get a free voucher for AWS or Azure if you just keep an eye on your email. Like if you just go start studying these and sign up, you'll start getting emails all the time for like free I get them all the time for AWS and Azure. I can just go take free tests if I want. I don't have time to study for them right now. But I probably get like 2 to 3 free vouchers a year between AWS and Azure. Well, between each of them, sorry. So it's probably like 5 to 6 free vouchers a year that I get for their different certs. And maybe on the AWS side, it's because I have their pro for architecture. I'm not sure. Maybe that's why I get invited to some of that. I'm not sure. But on the Azure side, I only have an AZ900, guys. I don't have anything special. AZ900 is their by far lowest one. Robodom, you were talking about going for the AWS cert after Sec Plus. You should. There's a whole bunch of us that have it in the environment. So Robodom, I know a whole bunch of people have that. Last chain. Let me go check out Ranger Cam. Where's Ranger Cam at? Hold on. There's Ranger. He hasn't moved. It's 10:51. It says it's 96 degrees here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's hotter than that already. Oh, it's 99 here. It is 73 downstairs, though, so Ranger's nice and cool. That's a Ranger check. In case anybody ever wants to do a Ranger check, you can see the time is current. Ranger's doing just fine. All right. So, yeah, certifications are valuable. But, again, you don't have to go get a cert if you don't want. It's just there's all these free ones. And I tried to enumerate some of the free ones that I think are good that are out there. There's API. If you want to, whatever you do in technology, you should understand APIs. So there's some good ones there. That training's about 18 hours worth of training, and there's 3 certifications that all give you a different little PDF with a certificate with your name on it. And Angeline Silva, thanks for the follow. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Chaos Engineering is a free one that you can go get from Gremlin around site reliability engineering topics, and we've went into that pretty deeply over time. But if you go look at that one's got some cool stuff to it. There's some process engineering ones and just basic statistical processes of process improvement. So those are there. IPv6, there's a free one. And then again, that certified in cybersecurity one, which is an ISC squared one, which again, that's close to my heart because I have 2 of their kind of bigger certs as well. So I'm a fan of ISC squared. I think they keep a good certification. I think they just turned 30 the other day too as an organization. So, all right. So here's all the free certs that I know about. These are the ones that I just mentioned, but there's general engineering ones. There's networking ones. There's that security one. I need to update this now. But there's that. There's the security one I was just talking about. So here's all the ones that I know about. Also, the API lifecycle one that we talked about, we have a study guide for it that one of our guys put together. It's called the Pathfinder Guide. So if you go look on the Discord and you're like, hey, where is that? Just search in the top right for Pathfinder. It'll pop up. Just go here like this. Where's that? Come here. Just go here, Pathfinder. You should see the here. Where's that? Well, it should be right here. I don't know why. There it is. There's a Pathfinder guide right there. Anyways, you can go download those and play with them if you want. They just help you to. It says on the test it's an open book test, so those just help you to study a little bit and get quickly to the reference material from the training. All right, here's some other free training, but the certification itself is not free. So if you tell me, hey, I just want to go train something somewhere, but I don't really care about getting a cert, I say that's fine. Not everybody wants certs. Not everybody needs to bolster their resume with certs. Here's a whole bunch of free stuff that's out there. There's all the hands-on labs on killercoda. Not just mine. There's literally 1,000 other ones out there. Six Sigma has all the other belts besides the first white belt ones that are free. All the training's free. Terraform has all kinds of stuff. Vault, all that's HashiCorp stuff. All this Gremlin Chaos Engineering stuff. I'm going to link to you guys this guy's GitHub. And the Dastergon GitHub is probably one of the coolest ones around for... whoops, what happened here? I'll link this to you guys over on the YouTube and the Twitch side. And his stuff is just, man, it's just all these things. It's the culture, the books, the education, the notable tools, the papers, game day, all the things around chaos engineering for the last 20 years or so. So he's got all kinds of good stuff in here. If you're looking for books, remember I was talking about books being useful? They have a really good Google one. So if you click on the Google one, it'll take you, Google has books that you can read. Building Secure and Reliable Systems, Site Reliability Workbook. And some of my friends that are site reliability engineers now used this material to get themselves more experience in this space. Some of the guys I know have left platform and systems engineering directly to go do site reliability engineering out in the cloud projects. So that's a thing, right? People like to move on. Not everybody wants to be down in the trenches doing Linux like this every day, right? Not everybody wants to do that. So there's other things that are out there. Look at all this. Primers and things to learn and tools and gosh, so much stuff, right? But maybe that's what's interesting to you. Maybe you want to go learn data science with Kaggle, General Web, W3 Schools. I still use that as a reference all the time. Such a great tool. General Linux, there's a great reference, tldp.org, right? Web security, you want to learn how to use Portswigger is the burp suite, right? And they've got their own little academy. Now, the tests are not free for any of these. Let's see, not free. Oh, Gremlin Chaos Engineering is actually free again. So I need to update this too, because this one is free again. So I need to actually move this one up to free, because Chaos Engineering, I thought this one stopped being free. I thought they had discontinued it, but they did not. Some of these ones down here don't necessarily have certifications with them. But I'll tell you what, some of those guys running around on Kaggle, they're getting job offers and they're working consultants and stuff because of the stuff they do out there. Right? There's a lot of stuff in competitions in there. There's big money in those competitions. You guys should look into that if that's interesting to you. Look at all this. There's just all this stuff to go do in engineering. So anyways, this is a talk that I have on keeping yourself sharp. Find stuff that's interesting to you, right? All right, so then I think you should build yourself a home lab. Get some equipment. In my case, we were building out as we started here a server for Rocky 9.4. We were testing that in my XCP-NG environment. I have 3 physical servers that sit behind me, and then they are virtualized down into different networks and all these different things. And I'm actually building a system right now. So the system's rebooting. So I should be able to just eject this disk now, this disk ISO that I have, which again, some of you were here, but that disk ISO it came off of a Windows box, right? And then I pushed it over to my ISOs folder. My ISOs folder is a Samba share on a Linux server. That Samba share with the Rocky 9.4 right here is also connected out as a NFS share. And then that NFS share is allowed to be linked as an NFS ISO library from my system here. So everything's connected. Everything pushes through everywhere. And in the home lab, I have it all set up where, yeah, we could just stand up a new server if we wanted to, this Rocky test. We could start to build it out and see if it's, what we want, and then harden the box down and all that stuff. So we'll do all that stuff here eventually. But that's what the home lab's for. Home lab is stuff that I can go spend. I'm probably up about $700 now. But when I first wrote this, it was only about 500. But if you don't want to build a home lab and spend money like this, there's a lot of free engineering you can do out in the cloud with AWS. They've got a free tier that you can always use. There's the first year free, which is like pretty nice for some of your virtual workloads with EC2 instances and stuff. And then Azure gives you a first month $200 credit. You could just burn money out there, right? But with AWS, like with their free tier, you can go here. Watch, you go like this. Let's go to let's go to Ranger Check. And I just come here and go to AWS console. And we just connect in on my AWS stuff, right? AWS. That's not my... Is that right? I think that's right. And then in this lab environment, I can have keys and I can do all these stuff. Wait, hold on. Somebody said, hi, new here, getting acquainted. Is that GitHub of Dastragon yours? No, that is not mine. That is somebody else. Want to make sure I'm following the right one. By the way, hello, I'm Dale. Yeah, no, Dale, you do not. That is not my GitHub, but that is the right one. The Dastragon. That's just some generic one that somebody put together. I'm sure you can go find out who that is or whatever. But no, that's just one that I think is super useful because it's got all the stuff around chaos engineering laid out in a nice kind of digestible format. You can also get a cheap Oracle. Yeah, so like across any of these, you can get all the stuff. Look at my let's go to my VPCs, right? So my VPCs, virtual private cloud instances, right? Inside of AWS, they are regional, so I can drop down to any different region that I might want. But I do most of my building in US West 2, which is Oregon. And I can come down here and I can see the VPCs that I have, but I have just 3 in this environment. So I can go to a VPC. And I can say, okay, here was one I actually put this together for one of my college classes to show my students. And I can come here and I can actually go let's go look at this VPC. Let's go see what's going on in it, right? And as I built this VPC out, I have subnets, routing tables, and network connections. So this one doesn't really have much going on, except I was showing them that I could be in a specific availability zone in US West 2C. But let's go to one of my ones. I have some that have more. Hold on. Let's go to some that are like, here's my project VPC. This one's got more. And over here, you can see I've got 9 subnets. They're in, each of them are in a different availability zone, which provides its own power, space, and cooling, and is at least 100 kilometers from any of the other ones, meaning that certain types of events should not affect it. And then if I click on any one and I see that it's public or private, the name doesn't actually matter. But what does matter is when it's public, its routing table that it connects to will have an entry that goes to the internet gateway. These other ones do not have that. If you go here, if you look at your private ones, they are going only to some other network connection that I have here for Project 3 VPC. So these are all going here, but the internet gateway hits all of them. So this is really important. Oh, you came by RWX Rob. Nice. Well, you're already you're welcome to hang out. We're just doing Linux stuff, and well, Linux, and today is less Linuxy and more engineering-y. Kernel changes on the website, so it's reprinted the book. He simply updates. Nice. Last chain. That's nice. I hear a lot about the Linux programming interface, but I haven't messed with that much as far as the book. Northern Chimp said, did I mention a site named General Linux or something earlier on? No, there's one. What you might have heard was tldp.org. tldp.org is the Linux documentation project. A lot of people tell me, oh, this is dated. And I'm like, yeah, the page itself is dated, but the guides in it are still really good. They're really good. I mean, they are the standard for Bash. So if you say TLDP and then you say that you want to look for file test operator, right? You're like, I know that I can test this thing, but I don't remember how to do it. Here you go. And yeah, sure, you can go read the man pages and stuff for sure. But if you're just like looking for a quick one or you just want to reference it for something, here's a bunch of information about how that works. And then a bunch of examples. And we actually used some of these a few days ago on stream when we were talking through some of this. But yeah, TLDP, I love that for seeing stuff about the system. All right. There's all kinds of things in here. But anyways, I'm just in, look, guys, I'm in a simple AWS device, right? And I can go to EC2 right here. So we were talking about how easy it is for me to stand up a Linux box, right? Because I get people come in and they're like, oh, you're on a Windows box. How are you doing Linux? And I'm like, we can do Linux from anywhere, guys. Doesn't matter. But let's say that I wanted to launch an instance here. I don't have any instances running. No EC2 instances running in Oregon. I'm going to launch an instance. That's going to pop up. It's going to ask me some things, and I'm going to say stream test. Right? It's going to automatically go to an T2 Micro, which is the cheapest. And then I could use any of these quick start ones, but I want to build, I'm going to use my own AMI that I've built. I've built my own Amazon machine images. You can use tools like Packer to do that. You can do stuff inside of AWS to do that as well. And then this is the information I want about my system. I got to select a key pair. So I've got a key pair called stream test that I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure this is the last one I did. So let's just use that. We'll set up the VPC. We'll allow it to auto-assign a public IP. That's fine. We don't need to use a specific security group. We don't need to make a new one. We can just use one of these other ones. And then we can go maybe look at the security group rules real quick. And it allows SSH in from anywhere. So I'm fine. That's fine. Security group. And I come down here. It's 8 gigs of storage. That's fine for what I want. We'll just launch the instance, right? Okay, so we stand up this instance, right? And this instance is going to come up. It's going to get a public IP address. And then I'm just going to go over, look, I'm just going to go over to my Windows box, CMD. I'm going to pull up a Windows command prompt. Look at that. Frickin' Windows, right? And I'm just going to make this a little bigger so you guys can all see it. And I'm just going to go and see if I can connect right here. So I'll just click on it and see some information about it. And here's its private information. So if I was going to connect to it internally, but its instance coming up. Here's its public IP address right there. It's also got a public IPv4 DNS. So there we go. So I'm just going to grab this right here. Boom. Oh, I can also hit right there and just copy it, right? There's its public DNS. And I'm going to CD here into downloads because that's where I keep this stuff. And I'm just going to dir for, what did I call that? Let's say anything dot, what was that, RSA? Maybe not. Maybe it's, anything test. Here's a stream underscore test dot pem. That's probably what I need. So then I say ssh dash I, and I'm going to use that stream test dot pem, right? And then I'm going to try to connect to EC2 user, EC2 dash underscore user, I think, at, and then I'm going to use that long thing there. And oh, look, I got connected to something. And then it says that permission was denied, so maybe I didn't have the right, maybe that's not the right key. I don't know what I called them as I downloaded them. Maybe it's that one. Oh, you don't, hold on. It is the first one, but EC2 dash user, I think. That's my bad. You got to remember a little bit of stuff, guys. There it is. All right, so boom, look. I'm on that system. So it from a few minutes ago, I was talking about this, to me having a working Linux system that I can sudo -I and become the root on. And I can download packages from the internet. Like, let's say I just needed to turn this into a web server for some reason. I could do that. I should be able to, let's see, cat Etsy splat release. I believe this is just an Amazon. Yeah, so it's Amazon Linux 2. I can update it. Maybe I got to update this box. This box hasn't been turned on in a couple years. Let's see what yum-y update shows. Probably so many packages. So many packages need to update on this box. So many that we might even fill up that 8 gig little disk that I gave it, right? So, there we go. Yeah, Northern Chimp, hopefully that was good, the tldp.org. Hopefully that's what you were looking for. But my point is, like, I can have this box up in a few minutes. If I understand, and by the way, this is part of understanding the cloud. If I understand its security, that security group I gave it only allows port 22 in from anywhere. So if I set up a web server on it right now, I wouldn't be able to get to the web server by its public DNS name. But if I open port 80 to that box, right? If I come down here and I edit these rules for the security group, Launch Wizard 6, right? Some BS one, then I can just stand it up. Yeah, look, yeah, Windows Subsystem for Linux or even Docker on your own system, 100% you can just stand up and build instances quickly. So that starts to get into like what we call like dev engineering, like for you developers and guys who want to do software engineering and you want to stand stuff up quickly. This is even kind of arduous. Like I had to stand a whole server up just to get to here. What if there are faster ways? I can build software pipelines and push my code up, and the stuff that I write can be deployed right into AWS with no. So you have like code pipeline. There's all kinds of tools up here. And if I were a professional coder, I would spend a lot of time in here, right? Because I could build all this stuff out Stuff's relatively straightforward to do anyways, I think. But you got your code commit, you push code up. It'll you can have code artifacts store things. Typically, artifacts come from what you have in code build, and then code build will be run by code deploy. Code deploy will go and push things to different servers according to like these groups that you can make, and then pipeline just kind of runs it all and gives you go, no go. All this is with AWS, yeah, RobeDom. And most of this stuff you can do labs in for pennies. Like you can go in here, like if we were like, hey, could we find an AWS pipeline tutorial, right? And oh, here's code pipelines tutorial. And could I open this over here, right? And just push this to the right, and then just push this over to the left, right? Oops, it went too far left. And then could I just do a tutorial on this as I run through this and maybe cost myself simple code pipeline? Boom. It's going to probably cost me anywhere between, like, if I had to guess, like $1 and $5 to do this, as long as I turn everything off. But I mean, like, but what's $5? I mean, you were going to go spend that on lunch, right? Like, if you get away with $5 for lunch, I'd be surprised nowadays, right? So anyways, the point is, yeah, you've got these tools, guys. You got all kinds of tools, and I've gone kind of far afield, but the point is, you don't need to spend a lot of money to have a lab that'll do this stuff for you. Okay. So, personal projects, things that are interesting to you, but don't directly relate to what you do. So I've been doing digital signals and like ham radio type stuff and broadcasting since college. I got into ham radio when I was in college in the early 2000s, and I think it's fun. A few guys in our Discord are still big into ham radio. I've kind of drifted out of it, but that stuff's interesting to me. Digital signals and capturing things like that, something I do. I have multiple Raspberry Pis around here that capture signals of vehicles that drive by and all kinds of things that go on in my environment because that's interesting to me, right? Oh, you do have the possibility of monitoring all the costs in the billing console. Yeah, flat DJ Black. You can also, one of the things I always tell people as an advice is just build a little budget. You can have, there's 2 budgets for free. So just stand up a budget that says when I get to, in my case, it's when I get to 80% of $10. So when I get to $8, it lets me know that I've spent that much money for the month. And it tells me that not every month, but like when I do stuff in my account, like if I buy a domain name or something, it does that. Over-the-air update's a big challenge still. Yeah, because you don't want to brick devices for sure. Yeah, I don't have to run my Prolug labs or build labs out there, but I do because that keeps me sharp, right? Prolug is our professional Linux users group, and it's a group of, I think we're almost to 2,200 people, and, you know, we just try to, the stated goal of the group is to get you guys into Linux engineering. We're, almost everybody here is a hobbyist, and I want to get you guys into doing this stuff professionally. You've been working on getting the DevOps Pro cert? Nice. Have you done, Flat DJ, I apologize, but have you done your Developer Associate and SysOps? Because that's awesome. And if you need any help with that, Fisherman, in our server, Fisherman Guybro, is, he works heavily in the AWS space, and he has the SysOps and the Dev Associate. I don't think he's done his SysOps Pro or his DevOps Pro yet, but if you're working on that stuff, he's a good resource there. So he's around here often. He's probably not here today because he's probably off setting fireworks off. Remember, guys, some of you, today's going to be the last day that you have all 10 of your fingers, right? And I say that tongue in cheek, but it's funny. I grew up, my dad only had like 8.5 of his fingers when I was growing up, but he was actually a guitarist. He just learned how to play his guitar the other way. He switched hands. So he was right-handed, but he switched and played his guitar left-handed. So, all right. So, personal projects. You can run Docker directly on Windows if you want. Yeah. Professional projects. These are things that interest you, but also directly relate to a job. So, I'm a fan of automation. I use Ansible quite a bit. Ansible allows me to automate things outside of my normal job, so I do that as well. I monitor everything in home and at work. I build big monitoring systems for government projects and different colleges that I've worked on supercomputers for. So I'm a big fan of monitoring things and just getting the data, make sure the data are flowing through the system the way that they should be, right? So there's all this stuff. But when we talk about that, I have labs out on killercoda. And then if you come down here to our projects section, and I need to make this a little more organized, but if you come here, we've got this monitoring deep dive project guide, and you can go watch, there's videos on it. But if I go and pull up the, where's this at? Prologue presentations. And I pull up this presentation on deep dive project guide. So here's the guide, and then here's the deep dive with labs. So if we go to the project guide, this thing out of the way so you guys can still see me talking. Okay, good. This is a guide for you as you go through that lab, or as you watch those videos, or we talk about them, and you come in and you answer these questions, right? And you put it together. And as you do the labs, you start to fill out and keep your notes and all this stuff. Yeah, it's just a matter when you get into tech. Nice. Yeah. It's just, you gotta just keep hammering away at it, man. I tell you guys, I got into tech, you know, when I got out of the Army. I had a CCNA. I could program the crap out of routers and switches, but I couldn't tell you what a server was. And I just got in at a school district, you know, and a school district, and moved up and became their wireless and their firewall guy. And then I moved out of there and I went over to GoDaddy and I ran their network operations center. And I just basically been a Linux guy ever since. You know, I've been doing Linux and stuff. But here is, you know, my notes and things that I was doing on stream, and little Grafana dashboards that I was building. But then if somebody asks, like, well, what were you doing here? And I say, well, this was just a little minimum viable product, proof of concept that we could gather all the CPU usage. And then we did a little testing to see, oh, man, we could really shoot up the stress of the system, or we added to the disk. And you can see exactly when we wrote that, 10 gig file or whatever. You can see exactly when it happened. And you can see when we spun up high memory because we were doing stress on the box. And you can see all these things, right? We did a high... a warning and a critical, and then we could use these to alert out for if the CPU usage went above a certain total usage, right? So anyways, so my point in showing you guys all this is we've got stuff on logs and lab tracing, and then Prometheus and some of the counters. And somebody might ask you, well, is that a dashboard you built? And you say, no, this is a dashboard that I knew how to go, load into Grafana. But what it did show was that our data was flowing from one system to the other. Excuse me. And now we had a way to track everything that was going on. Anyway, so my point is to show you guys, like, and then you could take this, you could strip all this off the front and just put your name on it, and it would at least be something as a part of a portfolio that shows that you know how to do some basic Linux stuff. So you're trying to get into, an operational role. And operational roles, big part of that is keeping the lights on, KTLO, right? Keep the lights on. And we just need somebody that knows how to keep track of the systems and keep them running all night until the engineers get back during the day. And that's something that's out there. So, all right. So professional projects. These are things that you can do and you can prove to people by building those little projects we have. And we have other projects out there. And then there's more and more labs that we're always building in the professional Linux users group for you guys to go spend time in there, right? All right. Book collection. I keep a collection of books for references and reading. I've told you guys this. I don't make this up. There are a bunch of ways to do this. For me, documents, I can go right to my books. And here's a bunch of stuff that I've bought over the years from, what's it called? Mostly Humble Bundle, but some have, picked up, like some of these are even comic books. Or this is Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is an author. But these are still from Humble Bundle, right? These are Humble Bundle books mostly from different things that they had open. And sometimes I don't always get around to them, but they're excellent references. If I need to, what are in my Linux books? If I need to go and reference something or practice something or look something up. But here's my thoughts on books, right? The internet's great for referencing things. It is. But books tend to have more rigor and correctness in them. So what I mean by that, Stack Overflow runs the internet, like keeps the internet running. People go and they check Stack Overflow and they do, yeah, the Spawn comic bundle. I remember Spawn came out, man. Yeah, that was. I was still like, I don't even think I was teens yet when it came out, but I remember when it came out. Yeah. So, internet's great for referencing things. It's great for just doing a quick search and going, I'm having this problem with my Ubuntu 2004, but then you get like all these answers, and then like 3 of them, they're like, oh no, idiot, that's for 2204. You're such an idiot, and then everybody's just calling themselves an idiot down the page, right? And that's the internet. The internet's just cannot help as much as you'd like it to. So books have more rigor around them. There's, paid for things out there that are very good. There's a Humble Bundle. We do have a book from Prologue, but it's all of our labs. And I tell people all the time, go do all the labs without the book. And then if you're still like, hey, we want, I want more, I want to maybe journal and write out some of the stuff, that's what our big book of labs is about. Books won't call you an idiot, that's true. There's all kinds of free online books. The SRE Google books, those are the ones I showed earlier. You can type that in real quick if you want, sre.google. Or just look up Google SRE books. Those are all free. A bunch of free books out there. Probably more than you can read in a weekend, for sure. But you have projects and stuff that you can do out of there. But I think book collection's valuable. Now, I've been an engineer for 20 years. I'm going to tell you go find them on Humble Bundle because, that to me is pretty cheap and easy. It's $15 to $25 for a Humble Bundle. But all of those same books, you could probably go on an internet safari for and find. However, I like to, if you go to Humble Bundle, like some of it goes to charity, some of it goes to the people that put the book together, some of the other stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm okay with paying them the $20 or whatever so that I don't have to go search the internet for a couple hours to find all, because you'll find all the books out there. I'm not telling you to go get them that way. I'm just saying you could. So, like, for me, it's worth my time. And, maybe in another stream someday I'll tell you guys how I evaluate the value of my time. But, like, if something's going to take me an hour, well, actually, I'll just tell you here. If something's going to take me an hour to do myself on my free time, it's going to take away from my free time. It needs to be, for me to do it myself, that thing would have to cost 3 times what my base salary is. So, for me, if I know what my base salary is, and I do, then for something to take into, like for me to go search for books for an hour, I would have to save myself over $400. Does that make sense? So just because it's three times my salary, right? And my point in telling you that is, that's how I think of this. I value my free time very much, right? So that's where that's at. All right, industry discussion. This is maybe the most important part of all this, right? Because this is the thing you can do right now without changing anything else. Just immersing yourself in technology, keeping your finger on the pulse, keeping yourself knowledgeable and relevant. There's technology podcasts out there on all kinds of things, but I often say don't get sucked in by infotainment. If you go look at, I'm not going to call anybody out here because I don't care. I don't even consider these people. But if you go look at like the top 3 most popular like technology streamers, like the people that are popular on the channel here, they are not teaching you anything. They are simply a place to go hang out like a morning show. It would be the same exact thing to just go watch like Joe Rogan or Howard Stern. It's the exact same thing. They're not teaching you anything. They are there for infotainment. They are there to tell you, this tool is better than that tool and this is why, and then chuckle around like a couple of like junior admins about it. Like that's what most of those, like if you go look at like top streamers, that's what people like. And look, I realize like this kind of stuff isn't, but I'm just saying don't get sucked in by infotainment. You can go watch people for hours and they're not actually showing you how to do anything. And there's literally no value to hanging out there. But, I mean, people need their entertainment, but just understand that that's not where you're learning. So, yeah, Robodom, look, man, there's people on Twitch. It is what it is. But the point is, don't get sucked in by infotainment unless you're looking to entertain yourself. I mean, if you're looking to burn 8 hours, that's fine. But if you're telling me, Scott, I want to be an engineer, I'm just telling you, the guy that's going to sit there and tell you need to do NeoVim the way he does NeoVim to be any good is absolutely insanity. It doesn't matter what tool I use to get stuff done. It literally doesn't. Anyways, all right, that's enough of that. Slack and Discord. Find some group. I tell you guys all the time, if it's not us, go find somebody else. Find somebody that's got interesting stuff. There are on Slack, there's a thing called Measure Camp and Measure Slack. And Measure Slack, one of my good friends, Jared, who's going to come talk to the group in a couple of months, or in a month, actually. All the discussions are coming up. He went and spent a bunch of time in Measure Slack, got real good at Google Analytics, and he's probably making about 5 times now what he used to. Because he was making, he was making like 40K, and he thought that's about where he was going to go, and he was not really in tech much. And then he got over there and started using Google Analytics, and now he's like an analytics architect. So, all right. Shweddy B, I can't see whatever the asterisk is. You might have to drop it down in Discord. Get involved in open source projects. If you're willing to write and debug code, you could be working on a project tonight. That's true. I told you guys last time we talked about this. I have projects that I've contributed to over the years that are things that are interesting to me. I don't really have a lot of time to work with any of them anymore. But there's high performance compute initiatives that are out there. I brought this up because I'm heavily in the high performance compute space, and there are problems that have remained problems for the last 20 years in the high performance compute space. Right? There's hundreds of free labs over on killercoda. You can go talk to people. They even got a Slack channel. You can go in there and you can curse 666. I don't know what you mean finally actual content. Okay. All right. And then there's government sources. I tell you guys all the time, I've worked with the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Agency since 2020. I built one of their recent supercomputer. All right. So government resources. So there's library guides that are out there. If you want to get into NOAA, if you want to start doing there's all kinds of free resources out there. Data.gov. Look at this. I'm going to open this up. Skip verification. Open up data.gov. And there are, last I checked, there's a little over 300,000. Where's it at? This is their little stance on it, right? They talk about it. But I can tell you from being a guy who's worked with these research scientists that what the government has found, the reason data is out there and available is because of this. The thing, it's 20, I thought it was 303,000 last time I checked. But anyways, the reason that the government makes these all available is they found that just people going and messing with data and like what you might call like an amateur data scientist get more stuff done by going and looking at data than they do from the scientists that they pay. Did you guys know that? And I'm not making that up. You can go look that up. They have found over and over again that you can go, that there's more stuff to find. Like somebody that figures out and wants to go look at this food resilience data is going to do that better because they like looking at it and playing with it than somebody who does it professionally. So where I'm going, well, I try to make stuff that's applicable, hopefully, as much as I can. But my point is, look at this. There's a tremendous amount of data set. And then this is the NOAA stuff. So if you wanted to get into working with weather, maybe you're one of those guys who likes to put one of those little things up and then you feed data into NOAA. The NOAA system tracks, like, it's over 2 million sensors a day that ingest data into it. But there's all these events coming up. So look, this is coming up Wednesday, July 17th. What is that? That's in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, from 12 to 12:45, and I think they say somewhere like it's all Eastern time or whatever, because they're on the East Coast and the West Coast. Actually, they're on the East Coast in Phoenix. That's where the two major supercomputers are. Here's how you register to attend if you want to go to it. And then here's what they're going to talk about. It's going to be technical. But again, like, you know, I want to give you guys the idea that you can go and pull up the big boy pants and go do engineering and do scientific research if you want. This stuff is free. Stuff is all free. They've got recordings, their old YouTube channel. I'm gonna link this for you guys. I'm not gonna play anything though. Oh gosh, do you guys know what happens if you play something on a YouTube video? I'm not playing nothing. Then you get like blacklisted for that time, and then you have to like pull it off. You can't. It's weird. It's weird. I'm not playing nobody else's stuff, guys. Hold on. Look, this is not... Nobody goes and watches these, but there's a tremendous amount of information out there on how to use their systems. Guys, there's more stuff than an amateur... And I call myself an amateur data scientist because I don't get paid for data science. I'm an amateur about it. But did you guys know that, like, the word amateur doesn't mean you're not good at something? The word amateur simply means you're not getting paid for it. But if you go look up, like, amateur whatever, like, there's always this negative connotation, and I think it's like an English negative connotation, where they're like, I don't want to say that, I don't know, something about us Americans. When we say amateur, we mean you're not a pro. Well, amateurs can be just as good at things. And again, the U.S. government has found, I'm telling you, they found that if they put stuff out here and people go and look at it, they get more stuff. Hey, thanks for the couple of subscriptions, Last Chain and Thermite. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. I'm just, I'm trying to put stuff out there that you guys can use. And I need to, and I've been talking about this for like a year, and I just haven't done it because I've been so swamped with college, my college and other stuff. But I need to put together just a little lab. I actually have it set up. It's up there, but it's not published. But it's like an influx, Grafana, and data visualization. So what I need to do is take one of these data sets that are out here and just show how to pull it via an API. Look, there's a whole bunch of them that are API based. Look right here. Where's an API at? API for food. So I want to go pull their API for food access research. I don't know. I want to know how well people can access food in America. And I go and I say, okay, here's their API services. That's how I can hit their API. And I want to build that in and then show how I can then feed that data into my InfluxDB, which is a time series database. I can go visualize it with Grafana. And very quickly, I can look for trends in that data. Very quickly. It doesn't take long to do. But I want to turn that in. I want to codify that down a little bit into like a lab for you guys and stuff. We could do that, obviously. Like, we do that on like a Saturday. Sometimes on Saturdays we do our what's called on Saturdays we work on just like our professional Linux users group. We just hang out down our Discord, right? But I would definitely go over this because this is stuff, again, this is stuff that I do for fun. I'm not a pro at it, but I just know, I support the pros. I build all their systems out, but I use the systems as an amateur because I can, right? And there's actually colleges out there. I think Northwestern University is one of them. Let's see if they have, hold on, let me look. I think they have a public access. Does Northwestern University have public access supercompute, or some people we call it high performance compute internally, but then externally it's typically called supercompute. Most people think of it like supercompute. Let me see if I go to their Northwestern high performance compute cluster. Here's information about it. I don't know if they allow, let's see. Obviously, Northwestern researchers. I think you can sign up. I'm not 100% sure. But I think you can sign up for a general... any Northwestern University researcher or educator may request... Okay. Northwestern graduate students, postdoc faculty, maybe allocation managers, undergraduate students may use Quest, but associated... I think they have a procedure where you can get involved with this even if you're not with the college. But I'm not 100% sure of that. I have a lab, the Professional Linux Users Group lab that's stood up for you guys to do this. And I do have high performance compute nodes. I just have them down right now because nobody's needed them lately. But I'd like to build some of that stuff up so that you guys can come in and even though it's going to run a lot slower on my environment, you guys can do a lot of this stuff. But anyways, look at this. There's all kinds of stuff out there for you guys to get into the industry and stuff. So the original question of this talk, by the way, I think I'm almost at the end of it. Yeah. There's our questions. That was from a talk earlier. I was drawing this stuff out. But the purpose of this was excelling in the engineering field after college. But if we're not talking after college, if we're just talking for anybody, these are the things that I think that you should do, right? I think that you should come in here. You should understand this is what engineers do. This is how we do it for an organization. And this is how, once we understand those things, how we keep ourselves sharp, how we keep ourselves ready to go as engineers, right? Doc, you said on the Grafana website that they're sending people to practice labs on your Killer Coda site. That's awesome. That's awesome. I need to make those better. And one of the Doc, that is really cool. I'm gonna have to go look at that. But also, if one of my things about doing this is as you guys go out and you crawl around and do the labs and work on the different stuff and feedback, one of the things is it really helps me like keep the labs up to date and stuff. So like that's why I say like it's a community effort. Like I built a lot of those labs out, but we had one of our guys. Oh God, why can't I think of his name? I feel terrible right now. I can't think of his name. Control Byte. Control Byte followed along and did every single lab that I did. And basically like checked me every time I did something, and he did pull requests and like checked things out and made them work better. And then more recently, SK showed up. SK's name is really long and it says just call me SK. It's kind of funny. He's got this kind of longer Indian name, and then right at the end it says just call me SK. But it's kind of funny. He went through and did all the labs too and found things and did pull requests, and it's like it's this awesome thing where like I can only do so much, and I'm naturally lazy. But there's that. And then Chickad got the book. Happy 4th, everyone. Yeah, well, hopefully the book's useful to you. Again, I tell you guys all the time, you don't need the book to do this stuff. The book is just a way to journal and hopefully add more content to the labs. The labs are standalone. By the way, one of my things that I'm really focusing on this month is I'm going to have a new version of the book published. So anybody that's ever bought the book before on LeanPub, they get all future versions. I don't know if you guys know that. You'll get all future versions, but I'm going to be trying to add like 5 to 10 more labs, and then I'm also going to put them into the book. So the book says it's 95% done, but that's just so that I can keep publishing it as I want. But I'm going to keep working on it. I've got more labs to write and that kind of stuff going forward. But anyway, so this is what we do as engineers. And then we got all the way, we did all this stuff, right? We talked, whoops, discard the annotations. We did all this stuff. We got all the way to the end. And then the last thing was to review. So we learned how we learned. We learned how, there's different ways to stuff information into your head. And most people do it differently. But a lot of people actually, surprisingly, everybody thinks that, I don't learn this way or I don't. Most people surprisingly learn a very similar way. And you say, well, how do you know that, Scott? Well, one, I've been an educator professionally for almost 16 years now. I've had over 5,000 college students come through my classes. I've mentored hundreds of engineers professionally, like directly professionally. I'm not even counting the professional Linux users group. I'm saying like directly under me, engineers that I've mentored is in the hundreds. I think a lot of people learn the same way. You get your hands on it, you understand how this stuff goes. Yeah, Street Track. If you have a copy of the book, you'll always get updates for it. Yeah. I haven't pushed an update in a while, but I plan on doing one before our big August event. So I'll just have that all done and it'll push out. And yeah, you guys get all the updates in perpetuity. That's one of my favorite things about LeanPub is you could just start a book. I've only ever done the one, but like you could start a book, and if people really believe in it, they could just start buying it. I'm not asking anybody to do that, guys. I'm just saying like that's a cool thing. Like if you had a big community and they were like, oh, we really want this or whatever, that's a valuable thing. Certifications, right? Again, guys, if money is an issue, because especially when we first start out, we don't have a lot of money as engineers. We're broke infantry guys that just got out of the army, and I'm going to college on my freaking GI Bill or whatever back in the early 2000s, right? I didn't have a lot of money. So certifications were off the table for me when the Army didn't pay for it. So certifications, though, it goes back to this. You don't have to go spend a bunch of money. If you're only talking about a one-page resume, guys, this could help fill up the start of a resume, right? These free things here. These are free. Everything here is free. You just got to go spend time. I mean, look, there's always, when I say free, there's still the cost of your time. You still got to go spend time and study it. But I mean, I would argue getting better at things is worth it, right? Like if that's our goal. Our goal can be whatever we want, but in the spending time and educating ourselves and getting better at things space, certifications are valuable. Again, they don't, I tell you all the time, like, just because you have like an LPIC doesn't mean you know everything. LPIC doesn't mean you know everything about Linux. It just means that you spent time around the body of knowledge for Linux. Home labs. Build up a home lab. Go build out an AWS lab or an Azure lab or a Oracle. There's all kinds of free tiers for you to go play with those things. Google has a big one, right? I like AWS because I see a lot of jobs for AWS, and I think that there's a lot of value in it. Plus, I was kind of pushed that way by my organization. So I don't know, like, I don't really like sit around and talk about this much, but for people that were around back when I originally put together in our prologue here, in our presentations, I don't show this very often unless somebody asks me to go over it. But like Certified Cloud Practitioner, I trained up, when I worked at AAA, I trained up probably close to 50 people that went and got their, probably close to 50 people that went and got their Certified Cloud Practitioner and Solutions Architect certs. So I have a whole bunch of stuff on this, right? If you want all my cloud stuff, right? These, by the way, are all up in the Discord. I've got all this stuff. We go over this, we ask questions, all that stuff, right? Like if you guys are interested in that. But nobody's asked me to do that for a while, but the last time I did it, my brother passed his. Actually, two of my brothers have AWS Cloud certs. But I helped get that. I also have Solutions Architect Associate stuff. Anyways, those are all up in the Discord for people that need them. But also, it's funny, we had a scam train earlier. It's kind of funny. I don't know if you guys know about scam trains on the YouTube side, but on the Twitch side, there's like this thing where if people are like giving bits and stuff, it tries to scam them into giving more. It's kind of funny. Getting ready to go fishing today? Yeah, Street Track, I appreciate you coming by, man. Yeah, absolutely. And fishing is good. We've got quite a few fishers in the group. We got Fisherman Guy Bro. He put in his name. My good buddy Jared, who's on here pretty often, but he's also coming to talk to us. He's a big fisherman. Does quite a bit with that. So if you're fishers, we probably should have. We actually have a little outdoor section in the Discord, but we should probably have one. Maybe the fishers don't need their own, but definitely we have an outdoor space. But yeah, build up a home lab. Get yourself some hands-on, guys. I don't think there's any better thing than getting your hands on the systems. Finding where the system next breaks and the challenge that you're trying to build out or whatever breaks. Go read the manual some more. Read out, from your books or whatever you're doing, and try to get your project to compile or build or whatever the thing is. Right? We are problem solvers. That's what we do as engineers. Get a book collection. Again, you can go build them when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money. There's ways to go get them. But once you do have a little bit and maybe you're trying to give back a little bit, there's pretty cool places like Humble Bundle that do. I like that they're going to charity too. That's cool. But then maybe, again, one of the most important things is sit with the engineers. If you want to go work with engineers and do engineering, find out how they talk to each other. Find out how they work. There's all kinds of Slack and Discord out there for all this kind of stuff. What's a Hetzner lab? I don't even know what a Hetzner is, Bogan Bits. What's Hetzner? This is going to be my risky click of the day, isn't it? What the heck's a Hetzner lab? Oh, is that like a cloud? I'll be 100% honest, Bogan. I had never even heard of that. That's cool. Yeah, are they? Well, they're EU, right? Because normally when you get stuff that pops up, oh, look at this. I don't know anything about this, Bogan. Yeah, look, guys, there's so much of this out there. How long have they been around? The reason I asked that is they've been around since 97, have hundreds of thousands of servers in operation. So they're big in, German company. All right. The reason I asked that, right, because I hadn't heard of them, one. But this is awesome that, there's one more choice. when organizations look to go to a cloud provider, they deal in two things: vendor lockout and vendor lock-in, right? Now, when you go to make a decision like, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to throw my operations up into Hetzner, then you have to think about what you're doing. For like initial cloud penetration, a lot of times it's good because you're like, well, all I want to do is stand up some servers out there and run some web stuff and do some load balancing. And that kind of workload, what we call like a lift and shift, and where you just go and drop the stuff out there, that's pretty easy to do with anybody. But it looks like this organization's got some stability. They're they've been founded in 97, so they're almost a 30-year-old company. Is that right? Yeah, they're just under 30. They've been doing this for a while. They've got partners with business providers. They're out of Germany. Is that right? I apologize, guys. Isn't Deutschland? Isn't that what? I don't know. I think that's yeah. All right, that's actually pretty cool. So they can do a lot of stuff. It looks like. Yeah, when you're in Germany, don't you call it Deutschland? We only call it Germany outside, don't we? And I thought that was something. I thought there was something about that. That's why the Americans thought that the Germans were Dutch. That's like an old American thing, like back in the colony days, isn't it? They thought that the guys were. Yeah, I thought that was a thing. Was they were like, we're from Deutschland, and they're like, oh, you're Dutch, and they're like, no, we're German, but there were language barriers, so they couldn't say. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm just making that up. But yeah, that's awesome, guys. I'll be honest, I know nothing about Hetzner at all. I have literally just heard the name for the first time, but honestly, it sounds like people are using it. I think if you were like, hey, Scott, I just need to do something and get some Linux up, and I just don't want it to be my physical machine. Like me, I don't like doing stuff on this laptop that I'm on. I want everything to be off in my environment, right? Oh, look, we're in a box. We've got our 9.4 up. But I want to do things off in my environment. There you go. Yeah, send up for their VMs. Nice. Well, it looks like you pay a little bit, but it looks like that's probably reasonable. Monthly. That's is that about $9 or something? Sorry, what's that in dollars? 518 EU. What's that look like? Oh, I didn't know it was that close. I thought it was a different. So it's about the same. I didn't know that. 28 times taller than Germany. Yeah. That's one of those things. By the way, Last Chain just talked about something that makes it's very important to understand as an engineer. The metrics we use by which we measure something determine a lot about that something. As he just pointed out, USA is 28 times taller than Germany, which, if that's the only measurement you're going to use, proves that we're better. But if the measurement you're going to use is, I don't know, something else, who has more car manufacturers or something like that, I think Germany might have us beat, on that. I'm not 100% sure, but they have a fair amount of car manufacturers over there as well. But anyways, the point is, like, the metrics you use to determine how you quantify something really do affect. So that's a big part of. By the way, if any of you are like, oh, that's really interesting to me, and I do want to get better at stuff, that's what that Six Sigma stuff is. Six Sigma sounds like it's going to be difficult or something, but at the end of the day, this stuff right here, these free certs, they are really just like statistical process stuff, and they are very, very light on the statistics part of it. By the way, I think most any of you can fumble through it in probably a little bit of time. Maybe go spend a little bit of time on Khan Academy to catch up if you're struggling with the math part of it, but I don't think anybody would. Well, what I mean by that is I don't think if you spent time you would struggle with this. It's basic statistics, and this gets you really good in. And there's a lot of companies. If you go look up Six Sigma and Lean Six Sigma, there's a lot of companies that use it in the U.S. and abroad. It's a pretty well put together standard. And then you find out about Edwards Deming and all kinds of interesting stuff that goes on there. All right. Anyways, if you got any questions, feel free to contact me, you know, message me on Twitch or YouTube. I don't even know how to look at messages on YouTube. But, oh, it's Dutch Holland? There you go. That's probably accurate. Join the Discord if you want. Discord's free. You can hang out there. I will be around most of the day. I'll probably drop off of here in a little bit. We'll go find somebody to raid. Somebody's probably doing something interesting. On the YouTube side, I appreciate you guys coming by. I've done this talk before, but people asked about it, and I was really just hanging out, building lab stuff. So I didn't really have a plan. But this is, you know, this is what we do around here. We walk through. We try to encourage each other to keep learning. You don't have to get certs. You don't have to, like, you know, get certs to hang out with us or nothing. You don't have to do any of that stuff. I don't think it's the only way to break into the industry, but it's a positive differentiator to show people, hey, this person does want to get into the industry, and this person has spent their time around a body of knowledge to learn about how this stuff goes. So, yeah, and then for you guys that are in the U.S., enjoy the 4th. You guys that are outside of the U.S., enjoy the 4th and all that good stuff. Let me go find somebody to raid real quick on the Twitch side of things. See who's on right now. Oh, you know what? One of my buddies is on. I really like one of... let's see if he's still on. Yep, we're going to Practical NPC. If you guys don't know Practical NPC, he is building a game. The game's really cool, but he does a lot of coding on stream. So I really think go hang out with him. You know, follows are free. Maybe you find your next favorite follower. He does a lot of push-ups on stream, which is good too. So he's kind of got a little bit different feel, but it's pretty chill over there. So we're gonna go raid over to him, and I will see you guys. I will be on tomorrow for sure. Take care.